Good evening, and thank you for joining us. The Agriculture, Fisheries and Conservation Department has arrested an owner whose large dog attacked and killed two small canines in Yunlong on Monday. The dog was off-leash and the owner was not present at the scene during the attack. According to the department, under the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Ordinance, owners who unreasonably do or omit to do any act that causes any unnecessary suffering or permits suffering to be so caused to any animal may face up to 3 years in jail and a $200,000 fine. Mimosa Ngai reports.
One of the dead dog's owners releases a video about the Monday incident online. The owner says they were walking the dog in a Yunlong park before a large dog suddenly appeared and attacked the Bichon Frise. While they attempted to rescue their pet by kicking the large dog, offering it treats and spraying water at it, the 60-kilogram canine would not let go of the small dog. Despite passers-by who jumped in to help, they were unable to stop the attack because of the dog's size. The owner says they felt hopeless as they were unable to do anything but witness the death of their pet. Apart from the Bichon Frise, the off-leash dog also killed another poodle Monday afternoon. Authorities say a dog was transferred to the Agriculture, Fisheries and Conservation Department in early July after police received reports about it biting another canine. The AFCD arrested the Yunlong dog's owner, identifying that the dog was responsible for the July attack. The department is investigating the two cases and will proceed to prosecution if sufficient evidence is found. A dog trainer says a lack of early socialization training for puppies could bring out their hunting instincts and aggression as the dogs age. Under the Dangerous Dogs Ordinance, dogs weighing 20 kilograms or more must be kept on a leash no longer than 2 meters in public areas. Owners can face a maximum fines up to $25,000 or see jail sentences of 3 months if they fail to do so. Mimosa Ngai, TVB News.
The remains of former Premier Zhu Rongji were cremated in Beijing, with flags flying at half-staff across the mainland, Hong Kong and Macau to express condolences. Alina Wang reports.
The farewell ceremony was held at Babaoshan Revolutionary Cemetery in Beijing. Security around was tight, with police and plainclothes officers patrolling the area. President Xi Jinping and other senior leaders of the Communist Party of China and the state attended the farewell ceremony. They paid their final respects with 3 bows and shook hands with Zhu's family members. Former President Hu Jintao sent a wreath to express condolences. In Beijing, Tiananmen Square, Xinhua Gate, the Great Hall of People, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs all fly flags at half-staff, alongside party committees and governments across various provinces, autonomous regions and municipalities in the mainland. In Hong Kong, several institutions stationed in Hong Kong, such as the Liaison Office, the Office of the Commissioner of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the Office of Safeguarding National Security, as well as the Hong Kong Central Government Office, Government House, and all port control points, fly flags at half-staff to mourn. In Macau, flags are also flown at half-staff at Lotus Square and the government headquarters to pay final respect.
Zhu
Rongji served as premier from 1998 to 2003, actively promoting market economy reforms. Known for his outspoken style and tough stance on combating corruption, he also voiced strong support for Hong Kong on many occasions. He passed away due to illness in Beijing on August 12th at the age of 98. The official obituary described him as an excellent party member, a time-tested and outstanding statesman and leader of the party and the state. Alina Wang, TVB News.
Hong Kong Post staff completing their probation period in September will not be offered permanent positions. The office cites challenges in the operating environment, noting some new staff would only be offered a 2-year civil service contract. Financial strains and declining mail volume amid operational challenges. That's what prompted Hong Kong Post's comprehensive review of its operating model. That's not just to scrutinize the current delivery model and optimize their postal network across the city, but also to trim manpower costs, which they say make up the bulk of their operating expenditure. 30 postmen and postal officers who will complete their probation in September will only be offered a 2-year civil service contract. As for employees whose probation period ends after September, decisions will be made based on service and operational needs. Around 200 employees are expected to be affected. Postmaster General Leonia Tai says they really cannot issue long-term employment contracts to the staffers, considering that terminating their employment after the probation period ends would deal a heavy blow. They decide to minimize the impact by making such a decision. She also stresses that affected employees still enjoy civil servant status and benefits. The Postal Staff Labor Union says the move to scrap permanent contracts for them is unprecedented and also unacceptable, noting the staffers were not informed at all prior to the announcement and it will dampen the morale of some 5,000 workers at Hong Kong Post. Secretary for Labor and Welfare Chris Swin says any employment arrangement adjustments would follow the relevant law and contracts. Since 1995, Hong Kong Post has operated on a self-financing model under the Post Office Trading Fund. After logging losses for 8 consecutive years, the Legislative Council allocated $4.6 billion to the fund on July 15th. Hong Kong Post has been struggling with competition from logistics companies, which some say could deliver parcels straight to the doorstep with more flexible delivery hours. Hong Kong Post raised postage rates in April. While the rates are still cheaper than many market competitors, the Post Office Trading Fund has continued to be in the red since year 17 to 18. Lawmaker Priscilla Leung says Hong Kong Post should reassess its positioning, with scholars urging Hong Kong Post to recruit specialists in e-commerce and sales to strengthen profitability. Postal Officers Labor Union meanwhile attributes the mismanagement of their finances to the leadership, noting how the last 5 to 6 heads of Hong Kong Post were all appointed from outside institutions, questioning their familiarity with the operation. The latest population of Hong Kong in mid-2026 stands at about 7.518 million. That marks an increase of almost 20,000 year-on-year. While the birth rate continues to decline, the overall population saw a boost thanks to measures to woo talent and import labor. The latest government statistics for the first half of the year show Hong Kong's population stands at 7.518 million, marking a hike of 19,400 or 0.3% year-on-year. From mid-2025 to mid-2026, the city saw a net inflow of 39,800 Hong Kong residents. More than half have moved to Hong Kong via one-way permits. The rest hailed from various talent and labor import schemes. Kenny Shui, Vice President of our Hong Kong Foundation and Executive Director of Public Policy Institute, says the government should work to retain the talent as well. They include measures to help them adapt to Hong Kong's culture and language, as well as education support to their children. The city also logged about 29,700 births. The year-on-year decline widened, with a tally of new births now 5,500 fewer year-on-year. Death counts meanwhile stood at 50,100. Shui says the government should roll out more incentives, including longer maternity leave, more flexible working hours, and other child-rearing support, especially to working parents. The independent committee examining the Wanfu court blaze receives the chief executive's approval to postpone the submission of its report until the end of October. The committee says it continues to receive evidence and process written submissions. While it has begun drafting the report, owing to its remit, the committee has to cover a wide range of matters which are complex in nature. Secretary for Labor and Welfare Chris Swin says the Labor Department aims to propose amendments to the heat stress at work warning system this month. This comes after meteorological experts criticized the existing system for being ineffective. Earlier this month, the Hong Kong Observatory recorded an unprecedented temperature of 36.9 degrees. But the Labor Department only issued the amber heat stress at work warning, the lowest level alert of the 3-tier system, after being criticized by meteorological experts who also called for the adoption of wet bulb globe temperature. Secretary for Labor and Welfare Chris Swin says the government will consider the suggestion. Sun says they expect to announce the improved mechanism by the end of the month. Chinese drone maker DJI on Monday welcomed a U.S. appeals court decision to reconsider its alleged ties to China's military, saying it expects to set the record straight as the case moves forward. A U.S. appeal court on Friday ordered a lower court to reconsider whether DJI should be removed from a Pentagon list of companies allegedly supporting Chinese military. The appeal court said there is no publicly stated rationale for why the secretary believes DJI contributes to the Chinese defense industrial base. A spokesperson for DJI called the ruling a significant step forward, correcting an unjustified designation, reiterating that DJI is not a military company and has firmly condemned the use of its products in combat and taken active steps to prevent it. U.S. President Donald Trump said that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has always treated him with great respect, a day after he ordered the Pentagon to scale back annual joint military exercises with South Korea. Scaling back military exercises between the United States and South Korea also signaled Trump's displeasure with the South after it declined to help the U.S. with the war against Iran. Tracy Furness has more.
When I called recently the president of South Korea, who I think he's very nice actually, but I called him, I said, would you like to give us a little hand? We don't need help with Iran, but if you'd like, give us a hand with Iran. He said, no thanks. And I said, wait a minute, we have 39,000 soldiers over there guarding you from Kim Jong-un, your next door neighbor, and you're not going to help us on a very easy military operation in Iran? That's strange. No, we'd rather not get involved. I say, well, why are we involved in helping you? And I want to help them.
Trump's announcement baffled many in South Korea, which has been closely allied with the U.S. for decades, and where national security is a top priority due to threats from nuclear-armed North Korea. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung, during a cabinet meeting, said a robust South Korea-U.S. alliance and the strengthening of our own independent defense capabilities are mutually necessary and sufficient conditions for one another. In other words, a solid alliance strengthens the foundation of our security, while building up our own strength in turn increases our value and necessity as an ally. Cha Do-jeong, an analyst at Seoul-based Asan Institute for Policy Studies, said South Korea has always been deliberately staying a step behind other key U.S. allies when it came to showing support for the U.S. agenda. If it's difficult to make substantive concessions or contributions, then at the very least, on a symbolic level, South Korea needs to show that it supports and shares in the U.S. agenda. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
One was killed and thousands were without power on Monday after Tropical Cyclone Lala lashed Hawaii's main islands, where intense flash flooding and strong winds isolated already remote communities.
It is the flood damage that's caused the most damage, more than the wind. Without a doubt, wind has affected roofs in some areas. It certainly blew down trees all over the place, but it's the flood and the mud and the rock that poured through Na'alehu, Pahala, Waiohinu. These communities have a lot of cleanup to do, and they're going to need a lot of support.
In the hard-hit southern end of the Big Island, communities were isolated as they were cut off from communications and roads were blocked by debris. Intense rainfall and flooding caused a muddy mess as the storm moved past Hawaii's main islands. Officials announced one fatality blamed on the storm. U.S. President Donald Trump caused concerns about the condition on board the USS Abraham Lincoln fake, following days of reports that puts the state of the American military force in question as the Iran war drags on. Trump also threatens Oman as it works with Iran on a plan to manage shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. Gloria Feng has the story.
U.S. President Donald Trump calls concerns about the conditions on USS Abraham Lincoln fake news during a meeting with reporters at the Oval Office.
That was a CNN fake report. The Lincoln has been out there for a period of time, good period of time. And I know people on the Lincoln, they say it's beautifully maintained and beautifully taken care of. And other people went out and they found out to be true. It was fake news reporting from CNN.
The aircraft carrier has been the subject of escalating concerns over mental health and supply issues for American sailors, enduring nearly 9 months at sea since the start of the Iran war. And following his offhand comment last week about making the Strait of Hormuz U.S. territory amid negotiations surrounding the passage of the crucial oil shipping waterway, Trump seemingly adds fuel to the already intense talks by threatening to bomb Oman if the Gulf Arab country got in the way of reopening the Strait of Hormuz as it continues talks with Iran. Trump goes on to say he doesn't think Oman is behaving very well in the process of negotiating a memorandum of understanding with Iran. As to the state of talks with Iran, specifically the negotiations surrounding denuclearization and the Hormuz blockade, he had this to say.
Well, they want to make a deal, but they're not going to make the kind of a deal that I feel is necessary. Look, we're in there for one reason. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. We have total control over the strait. Now, they can be a nuisance. They can put a mine in the water, and people don't like having mines hit their billion-dollar ships, etc. But the blockade has been very effective.
Meanwhile, Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghei tells reporters in Tehran an understanding has been reached with Oman regarding the map of transit route, though Baghei stops short at elaborating on details on toll fees. This as Iran closed the strait following long drawn-out negotiations with the U.S. Also in Iran, meanwhile, is Hamas representative Khalid Qaddomi, who is making clear the group will not disarm as long as occupying force exists, as the U.S. attempts to salvage the Gaza peace plan. This after negotiator and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner held a rare meeting with the Hamas chief on Sunday. Kushner then met with Israeli President Isaac Herzog and the Board of Peace High Representative Nikolai Mladenov afterwards in an attempt to broker a roadmap to peace following Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's rejection of a 15-point peace deal with Hamas last week. Gloria Fung, TVB News.
The Consumer Council has received nearly 1,200 complaints involving medicines and health products so far this year, a 50% increase from a year earlier. Complaints involving electrical appliances have also risen by 18%. Ali Chan has the story.
In one case, a complainant bought a Chinese herbal medicine known as black nutweed from a pharmacy, expected to pay $140 for half a catty, but was later quoted $22,400, which is 160 times the expected price. The consumer eventually paid $11,000 and complained to customs. After investigation, a shop assistant was convicted of violating the Trade Descriptions Ordinance and was ordered to perform community service and compensate the complainant. From January to July this year, the Consumer Council received 1,190 complaints involving medicines and health products. About a quarter of them involved poor sales practice.
Many visitors to Hong Kong like to purchase medicines, medicinal oils, or herbal medicines for personal use or as gifts. The Consumer Council has in the past repeatedly urged unscrupulous traders to abandon misleading sales practices.
During the same period, the Consumer Council also received more than 1,400 complaints involving electrical appliances, an 18% increase from last year. About half of the increase was related to air conditioners, which may be linked to the hotter weather. The complaints mainly include product quality, delivery delays, after-sales follow-up, and cross-border purchases.
The Council has established a complaint referral mechanism with consumer counterparts in 35 regions and countries, including the mainland, provinces, and Macau.
Consumers are advised to check prices, delivery dates, and refund policies, and seek help from Consumer Council if disputes arise. Ali Chen, TVB News.
And that's the news. Thank you for watching.